Hey guys, this is Stephanie and I'm Stacks on Stacks on Stacks. Today I am bringing you guys my 2017 The Good, the Bad, the Overview. Basically, I'm going to be talking about my 5-star ratings. I'm going to be talking about my 2-star and 1-star ratings. And I'm going to just kind of give you guys an overview of what it was that I read this last year. Now, I've only been doing BookTube for 7 months now, so I am still counting the books that I read the first 4 months of the year. That doesn't add up. I've been doing it 8 months? I've been doing it 8 months. Okay. I have been doing BookTube for 8 months now, and so I am going to still talk about the books that I read the first 4 months of the year, even though looking back, I feel like I read more because I'm on BookTube now than I read before. So, go figure. We're going to start with a little bit of stats. Goodreads says that I read 85 books last year. However, when I counted my books individually and categorized them, I only came up with 83, and I categorized them numerous times. So, I have 83 books that I read and then 2 mystery books, so who knows. I also read 29,047 pages, which sounds like a lot to me, so woo. The shortest book I read was The Sleeper and the Spindle, which I'll put a picture of it up. This is actually a kid's book. I think I read it for one of the readathons. I was trying to get the right number of books in, and so I saw it at the library and I grabbed it. And it's by Neil Gaiman, I think, and it was actually quite good. I did like it. Read it in one sitting. The longest book I read last year was 781 pages, and it was The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. I just finished this like a week and a half ago and actually been thinking about it a lot since then. The more I think about it, the more I like it. And I actually think I like it more than I like The Final Empire. I know, but I think I did like it more. So I'm probably going to be trying to get to The Hero of Ages very soon because this leaves you at not a cliffhanger, but like, you know, you want to know what's going to happen, so I'll have to get to it really soon. But this was the longest book I read in 2017. I read an average of 342 pages in my books, which is kind of crazy because I know I read a lot of short books and I read quite a few graphic novels, so I must have read some chunkers and not realized it. Most popular book I read last year was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Unfortunately, I didn't give this the highest rating. It did have a lot of hype, but I don't know. I didn't engage with the characters. So maybe it's because I listened to an audiobook. I'm not sure, but it was fine. And I also think I would have liked it more if it wouldn't have been so hyped. That is a thing. The least popular book I read last year is The Green Book by Jill Paton Walsh. And it's super short. It's 73 pages. So it's 1 page longer. I got it actually, I think, honestly, you can kind of see it. I think Book Outlet sent it to me. I didn't order it. I think I just got it. And for freeze even. And so I read it because it came and it was such a tiny little book and I was like, sure, I'll read it. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It's, about as good as a book can be when it's 73 pages. But apparently it's the least popular book that I read last year. My average rating was 3.16, which actually is pretty good. I don't feel like I'm a super harsh judger of books. I feel like my husband's more of a harsh judger than I am, which isn't a bad thing at all. But I feel like I expected that number to be lower because I gave a lot of 4s that were really close to 5s, and I guess, I don't know. I just thought 3.16 was a little higher than I thought it'd be. I gave 13 5-star ratings, 33 4 stars, there you go, 34 3 stars, 2 2 stars, and 1 1 star, and I will get to those in just a little bit. And it's a total of 83 books. You can see my little question mark says 83 because it said I read 85 and I added them up multiple times. Now I will say how I rate a book, if I give a book a 3.5, like personally, then I will rate it a 3 in Goodreads. I won't bump it up because I don't feel like it's fair to bump a book up. I wish they had half ratings in Goodreads. That would make things easier, but they don't. So if I gave a book a 4.8 because I really loved it, and there are a few books you guys are going to be like, that's not on your 5-star read, you talk about it all the time. It probably was like a 4.8, like something really, 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 really close, not quite a 5 stars, so it's in under a 4. I had a pretty good reading year. I feel like I read a lot of books I really liked, and then there were a lot of books in there that were just kind of, So I think this coming year, I want to not give in to pressure of people saying you should read this book, and then reading mediocre books. But I want to try to read all good books. However, I do run into people that are like, oh, you read? Here, you should read this author. I love this author. And that always scares me a little bit because I'm like, what if I don't love that author? And then I have to go to the gym and I have to see that person. That could be trouble. But I'll probably give it a shot and read one book by that author, see what I think, things like that, because I don't want to read many 3.0 books if I can help it this year. So I broke this down as well into categories to kind of know what I read a little bit last year. I read, out of the 83, 31 of them were YA. So that's less than I thought. I actually expected to have more YA, but 20 of them were middle grade. So I kind of feel like that adds up to 51, and I read 85. So that means only about a third of them were maybe adult, a little under a third was middle grade, and then about a third was YA. So that's a pretty good balance, actually. I do like YA, but sometimes it's a little too youthful for me to completely enjoy. I read 3 nonfiction books last year. I know, I need to read more nonfiction. I don't love nonfiction, and I'm gonna be honest, all 3 of them were like biographies by humorous people who wrote the book themselves, and then I listened to an audiobook, so it was pretty funny. So it still counts as a nonfiction, but I'm sure it's not quite the nonfiction which you were thinking it was. I read 12 graphic novels / manga, which actually is pretty good. I do want to read more of those this year as well. I only read 14 fantasy books, which really surprised me because I love fantasy, so gotta up that number. I read 7 historical fiction, which I'm good with. I do enjoy historical fiction, but it kind of emotionally exhausts me. So I can't I have a hard time reading them back to back to back. I kind of have to space them out if I really want to enjoy them. I also read 4 mysteries, which is also good. I'm not much of a mystery reader. I read 4 classics, which is a little sad. I need to read more classics next year. I read 11 sci-fi, and I think that's pretty good. I don't know exactly. For my sci-fi category, I basically said if it was like a time travel, or it actually took place in outer space, anything with aliens or monsters or anything that was supernatural, that's what I said was science fiction. I hope that's okay. And then a shockingly 10 romance, which surprised me. Now I categorize these as romance. They might have also gone over in another category somehow or another, but I don't read a lot of romance. So the fact that I read 10 books that had a main theme, that one of the main themes was romance, kind of surprises me. And the most shocking of all is I actually read 9 contemporary books last year, and that does surprise me. I'm not a fan of contemporary, some of it I do like. Well, no, I really don't. I shouldn't say that. I'm a very harsh critic when it comes to contemporary. I just don't love the formulas that they use. I think I don't love insta-love. I don't love love triangles. I don't love a lot of the components that come in contemporaries. I think I like Morgan Matson because she tends to focus more on the friendship relationships. A couple of her books, they will have that boy-girl relationship in there, but it's usually a secondary. And so I think I prefer that because, well, if I were in high school or I had a daughter in high school, I would be like, why don't you focus on your friends more than this boy? Because boys are trouble. Anybody can tell you that. Also, they're going to tell you that girls are trouble. So let's just not do that in high school and save ourselves a lot of pain and suffering. All right, one more thing before I get to my 5-star and 2-star reads. I went ahead and I looked up the years of the books that I read last year to see if I was reading super new books or super old books or what. And surprisingly, I read 14 books that came out in 2017. I did not think that I was that up to date with books or anticipating that many books that came out. When people are talking about their anticipated reads of 2018, I'm like, I can come up with 3. I'm like, I don't know, when it comes out, I'll read it. Or when I hear about it, I'll read it. I don't know. So I don't know what to say about that, but I read 14 books that were released last year, which really surprised me. But I think actually liked most of them that were released last year too. So I guess that's a good thing. I read 15 books that were released in 2016. Again, pretty new books. Then I took the 5 years of 2010 to 2015 and I read 28 books that were written in that chunk of time. Then 2000, 2009, 18. Then I read 3 books written in the 90s, 2 books written in the 80s, 2 books written in the 20s, 1920 that is. And then I read Sherlock Holmes, which I think was published in 1889. I do want to be reading more classics, more books that are a little older, and not just be so focused on the current reads, because I mean, good books are good through the ages. So we need to be able to focus on reading books that are older, that are still good, and passing those forward. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and please, please comment. You will find me here on Tuesdays and Fridays. I look forward to seeing you then. Goodbye.